The original idea stems back to an event that was done by someone completely other than us. A guy who works at our sports centre who decided for charity to do a round Dorset triathlon. So he cycled right the way around the perimeter of the county one day. The plan the next day was to swim over to the Isle of Wight, and then the next day to run around the island, the next day to swim back, and then the following day to cycle around the county in the opposite direction. And there were a few issues and a few problems with that, not least of which was the fact he couldn't actually swim. The first idea about it goes back to then, and then actually deciding to do it, and well, that would have been a drunken discussion in the pub, without a shadow, or one of many drunken discussions in the pub.
Yeah, it was definitely in the pub after a few beers, and I remember kind of hearing myself volunteer to do the swimming bits, because Richard had this plan that we were going to do sort of the longest lakes and cycling and then running and stuff, and I remember saying to him, well, you're no good in cold water, so I'll do the swimming. But yeah, definitely a few beers had been drunk, I think, beforehand.
A couple of Christmases ago, it might have been 2 Christmases ago, when Joanne and Richard were up with us, they said they had this madcap idea of coming Jon O'Groats to Land's End, and that Joanne was going to swim the longest lakes, and would Jon be interested in the running?
I'm not a serious fell runner in that I don't race or anything. I think they saw it as a super triathlon, a combination of cycling, running and swimming on a grand scale, if you like.
That first part of it, we built in the need for it to be done in a certain length of time anyway, just so that we could, day one, we've got as far as Aviemore, and Jon's done the Cairngorm 4s. And that was the reason for starting as early as we did. So it made that whole day a meaningful day, and we could make a dent in the undertaking.
Wind's dying down already, a bit. A little bit.
Calculation on the waterfront.
Did you top up?
Hey, so I ran out in Wick.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. How long is it to my birthday? Oh, is it? Okay. I don't know, must be happy birthday to me, happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Richard. Right.
To you. How old?
Oh, too old for this, that's for sure. Got to get on, and you get on the bike and just go, and I guess, you know, that's just how it went for the next 10 days. You know, finish your section, put him on the bike, off you go, and that's it. You just pedal until you get to the other end. And then psychologically, that was entirely how I approached it. You've got to start, and you've got to finish, and you've got to do the bit in between, and you know, we'll keep the pace up as best we can. But the most important thing was managing an effort to get from A to B. So trying to keep all those things in mind really as we were heading off. Inverness is a place that we've visited periodically, and mainly just driven over the bridge or come into it from different angles. And it's always it's a focal point, isn't it? You know, and on that day, I knew at that stage that we'd kind of broken the back of in terms of distance, and it's heading off into the Highlands from there up to the ski station to take over. And it certainly is up from there. You're up on, out of Inverness, and it just drags on and on. It's not steep, but when you've been riding for a while, it just drags. And I think we stopped at the top. I can't remember the name of it. It's called the Schlocht or something like that at the top. So we had a good laugh about how you pronounced Schlocht.
Oh, I'm here at the Schlocht summit, finally.
Can you pronounce it for us?
Schlocht. Schlocht summit, Schlocht. So, 11 or 12 miles down into Aviemore now?
Yeah.
The climb that had taken me however long in practice the day before, with the headwind that was blowing and having cycled all night was pretty grim by comparison. And like, you know, it's not a huge climb. The way you arrive at the top there doesn't make the most of the lie of the land, really, in terms of taking a look back over the view. But it's just a beautiful place to, you know, to catch a vista from. And so remember that on the way back down as well, just rolling.
Solid. I reckon. Solid. Yeah.
So it's over to me, so I will set off then.
Right, so I'll see you at Glenfeshie.
She at round about 4
Well,
o'clock.
I'll be there for full.
Right. Okay.
Happy birthday!
Yes. Happy birthday.
Cheers, Jon, yeah. What's left of it?
No, we haven't got a baton, have we?
No.
No.
Take the bike. Touch fingers. Right, we're off then.
Just assumed that I'd be able to go around at a Bob Graham type pace, and I just devised a schedule that fitted that more or less. Just looking at the mileage you've got to cover and the height change you've got to do, and that equates to a certain time, and just followed that and assumed that if I could do it for 24 hours in the Bob Graham, then I ought to be able to do it for 12 hours on these things. So that was the way I approached it.
Enjoying myself.
It's a funny thing with the weather. On one hand, it's unpleasant being battered by the wind, but on the other hand, it's quite good to know that you're out there and in fairly inhospitable conditions, and you can cope with it. And I think I saw one person that day on the hill.
The summit of Benmacbuie, looking very pleasant. No sign of the great man. Proves that this is Benmacbuie. As you can see, I am having a wonderful time. I'm not quite recording anything more, so I'll just switch off. Area at 12:50, the third 4,000 metre peak. Again, not a great view. It's actually a very spectacular quarry down here, but I don't think you can see much of it.
On average, it was a headwind, so there were times when it was going slower than I would have wanted to. So overall, it took me a bit longer than I intended. And it was quite cold on the tops because of the wind.
This is the summit of Cairngorm, the final summit of the day. The sun is almost out. Here's the herd of reindeer.
I saw ptarmigan with their chicks, I saw snow buntings, I saw reindeers with their calves, saxifrage. It's a lovely place, and if you listen to wildlife programmes, people babble on about these things. You know, it's a major expedition to see any of those things, and those sort of trips, you just see them naturally.
We thought, and continued to think right through it, really, it was really important, you know, to support Jon on his way around, because it's just such a huge undertaking. So we dragged ourselves out there. It was a lovely place to be, and very sheltered where we were. Fortunately, the sun was out, it was bright. Poor Jon came down off the top with, you know, sort of almost full winter gear on, which is unusual for him, having been freezing cold in those wind conditions on the top there. And we were sat around watching golden eagles flying across the the sky in between the peaks, just in relative comfort. So it was lovely to be there. So from Aviemore, a good night's sleep, and then head off the next day down to Fort William, where I had a massage booked, which was fortuitous because of the state of my left knee at that stage. Then Jon would run the Nevis Range 4s while we were there, and then down to Loch Awe later the same day, so over Glencoe and down to Loch Awe. So that day in prospect, fantastic. And it seemed to be, and Balfour BT vans, there had major works going on there, and every vehicle that went past seemed to be a minibus or a truck full of people spraying all over us. It was one of those days where I seemed to have my own little microclimate of rain. There's this little rain cloud sat over my head. But intermittently the sun did come out, and it was beautiful. I think it would be a lovely ride to do in the drive. It was another long day, a day split into 2 rides, which is something I've never really ever done. So I was going to ride in the morning, I was going to ride in the afternoon, and having been fairly slow the previous day into that headwind for such a long ride, and the average speed not being as high as I would have liked, I think one of the main things over those sort of slightly shorter bursts was to try and get the speed up a bit. So actually that ride across there, right from the moment I set off, was a bit of a time trial, as best I could all the way across. That was less windy.
Right, we'll see you later then.
Have a good one.
Bye.
That's a helmet that's not been... Yeah, one that's not been worn for some time. My head must have grown in the meantime. Oh no, perhaps I should have adjusted it. A bit better next time.